Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and pretty controversial theory about a huge turning point in history. We're going to look at how a united rebellion against a massive empire completely fell apart, and one book argues it was deliberately broken from the inside. Okay, let's get into it. So let's set the scene. The year is 1857. The last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, is being exiled. This is it. This is the final nail in the coffin for a massive uprising against the British, a rebellion that honestly started with so much promise but just ended in total failure. You see, the rebellion started as this united front, with Indians from different backgrounds fighting together. So what happened? How did that unity just crumble? Well, today we're digging into the arguments from Chapter 11 of Bijit Prashantha's book, History of Hindi Mija and Hindu Genocides, which lays out a very specific theory for how this all went down. Okay, so to really get this argument, we gotta know who's who. First up, the author introduces a group called the Ashraf. Think of them as the elite, the ruling class of foreign origin who had been in power for centuries, long before the British even showed up. And on the other side of the coin, you have the Pasmanda. The source defines this group as the native, much larger and less powerful Muslim community, basically local Indians who had converted over time. The dynamic between these two groups is absolutely central to the book's entire argument. So the book claims that when the 1857 Sepoy Mutiny kicked off, it was this amazing moment of unity. You had Indians fighting shoulder to shoulder against the British, but according to this source, that spirit of cooperation was about to be completely shattered. So where did it all go wrong? Well, according to the author, the critical shift happened the moment British power started to crack. The Ashrafi class saw their chance, right? They moved to restore their own rule and set up their own local power centers. And the book argues that's when the fight for independence just spiraled into chaos. And the book doesn't just say this. It backs it up with some pretty powerful first-hand accounts. It cites Durga Das Bandyopadhyay, who was right there in the Bengal cavalry. He wrote that under these new Nawabs like Khan Bahadur Khan, Hindus faced such terrible persecution that, believe it or not, many started wishing the British would come back. And that's not the only account. The book also points to other reports, like this one from a British spy. So the crucial point the author is making here is that all this internal conflict completely drained the rebellion of its momentum. It created this deep fracture that, as we're about to see, the British were more than happy to exploit. So the British see this happening. How did they respond? Well, according to this source, they didn't just get lucky and watch it burn. No, they observed this division and came up with a very deliberate strategy to make it permanent. All right, check this out. The source points to this data compiled by a British official, W. Hunter, in 1871 as key evidence. Just look at these numbers. Among attorneys and solicitors, you've got 27 Hindus and 0 Muslims. In medicine, 111 graduates were Hindu and only 1 was Muslim. This huge loss of status, the book argues, made the once powerful Ashrafi elite incredibly unhappy. And what Hunter did in his analysis, and this is a huge part of the argument, is he made this really important distinction. He separated the well-to-do Ashraf elite from what he called the fanatic Pasmanda masses. And he basically said, hey, the real threat to our rule isn't the elite, it's the masses. And this slide basically lays out the 3-step master plan the source claims the British cooked up. Step 1, realize the Ashraf elite have huge influence. Step 2, recognize that those elites are terrified of losing control over the masses. And step 3, the clincher, appease the elite, give them back some of their power so they in turn will keep the masses in line for you. It's a classic playbook for divide and rule. Now, the author argues this strategy did way more than just stop another rebellion. It actually forged a brand new, powerful alliance. It completely changed the relationship between the Ashraf leadership and the British. The source has a really dramatic name for this shift, from Jihad to Jihazori. It means going from a state of holy war against the British to one of, yes, your honor, loyal submission. It was a total pivot from rebellion to collaboration, creating what the author calls the Ashrafi British nexus. But the author contends this wasn't just some cold, calculated political move. It also fit perfectly with what the book calls Hindu Messiah, a kind of pre-existing anti-Hindu bias that was already swirling around in the British establishment. It made the whole alliance feel, well, convenient. I mean, take this guy, James Mill, for example. The source highlights him because he was a hugely influential official who wrote this massive work, The History of British India. And the crazy thing is, he never even set foot in India. Yet his incredibly harsh descriptions of Hindus, like this one, went on to shape British policy and attitudes for decades. So where is all this analysis coming from? Let's take a quick look at the source for today's explainer. Everything we've talked about today is based on Chapter 11 of this 2024 book, History of Hindu Misya and Hindu Genocides. The author is Bijit Prasantha. His background is pretty interesting. He's a quantitative modeler, and he has a PhD in quantum chromodynamics from Carnegie Mellon. The book itself is described as a research project that took him a decade to complete. And so the book leaves us with this really provocative question to chew on. Was this whole alliance just a temporary, cynical power play? Or, as the author argues, did it do something much bigger? Did it fundamentally reshape the subcontinent and create deep divisions that we are still dealing with today?